like Shane Mosley, man, you jumped in the game with cold feet. You running with lames who hold heat, the photos and post tweets. Man, I'm nothing like none of you suckers, my soul deep. Like a lion with pride, I'm trying to feed my whole team. Test me. Some cats like the messy, but they were supposed to be OGs. But they don't teach, they just leave like parasites. GZO spit rap, so my hair is white. My flow go 80 like Jerry Rice. You already know.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, everybody.
Here we are.
It's that time.
Yep.
How
It's
you
been a
doing
while.
today? Yes, it has.
Sure has. Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah. It has been a hell of a month so far. It's a hell of a year.
Yes.
Everything's really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Off the hook.
Sure is. Yes. You know, so right off, I'm sending support to like government employees, man. It's like 3 weeks with no paycheck, like
Federal employees.
Federal employees, yeah,
Yeah.
federal employees.
We're good so far.
Oh wait, you're not.
Yeah, we're prison.
Oh no. Well, I was gonna ask you about that.
Yeah, I'm good so far.
Okay.
I don't know how far it goes, but
Good. I was gonna ask you about
they
that.
said, what did they say? National Guard
Yeah.
is one of the people they said. I've
Yeah.
been watching. We have the news on, everybody. I usually watch it. I watch my favorite MSNBC, and I watch.
No, I'm your
Fox, too.
favorite.
Well, of course you're my favorite. Of course, Anna's my favorite.
Yes.
Of course. When Anna's not here, it's gonna be MSNBC.
Yeah.
And I just watch Fox just to hear what they say.
I do too. Well, yeah, I do too, as you guys know. And I had that discussion again with other people. I watch Fox. I watch Al Jazeera. I mean, Fox has some good journalists. Okay.
Right.
I mean, it's not all, they have opinion people and they have journalists. They have some really good journalists.
Right.
So, yeah, so I watch them, but also, okay, it's this concept like, okay, if somebody's against you, if somebody's out to get you, do you want to turn around and huddle up and hide your head? Or do you want to turn around and like look at them and see what they're doing?
Right.
That's
right.
what I don't understand, okay? Yeah, you know, it's the same thing. Like, okay, they talk about like lean in. Okay,
Right.
that's supposed to be like a women's like, okay, yeah, let's get into a huddle and like lean in, like, yeah, so somebody can like come and like grab your ass. I mean, you know, that's like, no, you know, turn around, stand up, face stuff, look at it,
Right.
and you know, look. And so far as, and the big thing I tell people, or that I try and say, is that, you know, I mean, don't be afraid of ideas and things you disagree with.
Right.
And I was looking, you know, I went to a school called Evergreen State College, which was really alternative, and it was a state college and a state liberal arts college, and so it was like a cheap version of, usually schools like that are private and really, really expensive.
Right.
There was no structure, no guidance, none of that stuff, and that was not very beneficial to me, but my attitude about my life is refuse to regret.
Right.
So, you know, I didn't get that great an education, but I learned a lot of other, and I learned to have friends. I learned, you know, so, you know, I learned good communication skills and writing skills, but at that, I was on my own for just about everything. And so Evergreen had a big hassle a year ago where they've had something for years, like, you know, way after my time, called Day Off Campus, where all people of color like don't go to class, and it's supposed to like make the point of like looking around and be like, okay, well, for everybody else, like, okay, well, whoa, this is what it looks like when no people of color are here. And okay, people want to do that, that's fine. I do not feel that a school, that it is an appropriate thing for a school to say that not going to school is educational.
Right.
You know, I mean,
When I was in elementary school, our school did something like that. I went to St. David's, and they
so were you like, yeah, no school?
No, it wasn't no school. It was like that. What they did, and it's okay. I was like in the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade or something weird like that, and it was like we went to the school. They had a special dinner for us.
Yeah.
And they gave the minority people at the time, black,
Yeah.
Mexican, or whatever, they gave us a better meal than they gave the white people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were trying to, I guess, make it to where there's a point. And then they also did it in another way. They did it a couple of years. They did it another way where when you went to this dinner, you took a number. So whatever your number was, so like let's just say there was 3 different dinners. Let's just say number 3 got the worst of the dinners. Like it was just rice.
Yeah.
You know, literally just
Yeah.
rice with butter.
Yeah.
And then let's say number 2 got a roast beef sandwich.
Yeah.
Number 1 had like a full course meal, like, you know, chicken, vegetables, or whatever, you know, like a real full
Yeah.
course meal. And they did that like for 2 or 3 years, but then they stopped doing it. I don't know why they stopped. But it was
Well, what
kind of
did
like
you-
the same thing, except for...
Do you feel like
you
it
know,
was beneficial?
I don't know. I thought about it now. I was thinking maybe they were trying to just give everybody a chance to see what it's like.
Okay. Well,
So see other people's side of things. So like you go to the dinner, you're getting your meal isn't the best of meals. Then, someone
Okay.
else is getting a good meal. And
if
kinda,
you have to think about whether it was beneficial, then it wasn't beneficial. This is like, okay, so like think back, like if I was gonna, like, okay, what about playing sports? Was playing sports beneficial to you?
Right.
Was it?
It could have, but I think in some ways, I've always had a mixture of friends since I was a kid. So I'm gonna say it wasn't as beneficial for me because I had white friends, I've had black friends, I've had Mexican friends, I've had Asian
Which
friends.
probably has a whole lot, which I think has a lot more to do with playing sport. I mean,
it was that too, but now I'm not just saying this is for me. I'm not in someone else's body. Like if you were there, depending on your lifestyle or whatever, maybe it would have worked different for you. Maybe you're a person. Well, I'm saying. I'm not saying you're like that.
No. We're talking generally. Like, okay, I feel like that's treating kids like experiments and sort of
I
like
think it was kind of an experiment.
Yeah, and
but I as I got older, I seen what they were trying to do with it, and I see what they were trying to do. They were trying to have everybody see a point of every different side of it.
To me, okay, I call that sort of thing like, okay, if you want somebody to learn about pain, you don't need to go up and smack them. There's other ways to do it. And so I feel like, I've seen people be like, okay, well, I am going to show you how bad the N-word is, so I'm going to say the N-word. And to me, that's like, you see stuff like that, and I feel like you need, we learn a lot more by, rising above. And one of the themes here is, not just rising above, okay, you can put out your hand to somebody and say, hey, come with me, I want to show you this. And so I'm saying two things at once, because, I will always say that with kids, with anybody, the best way to start to create feeling and empathy is through play, is through theater and books and music. And I was a kid that read a lot, and I mean, I remember, books I had a book about a black family where they, with segregation in the schools, and, the little girl was, it was called the upstairs room, and, the little girl had to, I don't know if it was fictionalized, but, it happened. It was like, the story was it was about this little girl going to a white school, and so she wound up being in the classroom by herself because it turned into like a huge thing. So so I read that in historical fiction, and the thing that we need to try that people lack that's so important is empathy, when you to try and get across, like, okay, wow, this is to try and, like, okay, I'm doing something that's hurtful to others, and when you can learn to think about, like, wow, what if this was me? I mean, empathy means like feeling with other people,
right?
And so, okay, so that's the other problem with the meal thing, is that food should be food, and you shouldn't use food to try with kids or with anybody to try and make that point. I mean, kids are concrete. A lot of little third graders are be like, wait, why do I have rice and they don't have some, and other kids have this? I mean, that's just trying to be like a great global sort of experiment. But so yeah, I think you would learn a lot. You would learn a lot more by, like, say, having a meal, having a dinner where you bring people together and, like, maybe go around. And so with kids, it's like, yeah, you need to teach people to play together and spend time together, teach social skills, and, like, yeah, films and books and all of that. Okay, kids aren't guinea pigs. But okay, so that's grade school. But going back to college, okay, and I don't, and hey, and in college, I disagree with not going to class being educational, but I mean, in college, stuff like that, like, yeah, it makes sense to do stuff like that in college because young people are old enough to understand it. Elementary school, grade school kids get, they certainly get discrimination and all of that, but something like, okay, I mean, kids are literal. They're going to see, like, okay, wait, that kid gets ice cream and I don't, and that's not fair. And for them, they're going to see that. So anyway, so this was the thing in college. So this was what they had at Evergreen State College, and a professor disagreed. Okay, but so then they decided to have something where, like, okay, we're gonna, like, let's not have any white people come to school today. And I disagree with that for the same reason, because I don't think we learn. It's a school. You don't learn by, unless you're, like, doing community service or whatever. But no, that's not a good way. I don't think that really teaches anyone.
What did you think about that one lady? I forgot her name. There was a lady. You've seen it on TV. No, it was a lady, and she was doing weird stuff like that. She had her class, and she did some kind of experiment where all the people who had, like, blue eyes had to...
Oh, yeah, that was classic. That was
old. What do you think about that? Is that kind of...
Well, that's one of the things... That was old. I mean, that was... Yeah. I remember that from when I was a kid. It was, like... It was the same sort of thing as, like, smacking somebody to show that violence is wrong. It was, like, egging kids, like, okay, we're going to teach you about discrimination by having you discriminate. So, no, I mean, I think that was... No, I remember that. It was like, they were, like, posting, like, okay, blue-eyed people are better, blue-eyed blah, 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 and it's just wrong developmentally. I mean, and and it's also, I think it's like extremely, I actually find it sort of like racist in its own way, because kids have experiences. I
Right.
mean, kids like kids are like aware of racist experiences from the time
Right.
they're toddlers. And so creating some fake thing like that, I mean, I actually think it's really disrespectful in a way, and that I also think it's something that, family. I think that's kind of intrusive toward families. I think that's a very personal thing for I mean, but every kid is. I mean, I probably said that. But, remember that there's this book called The Little Engine That Could, about like a little engine that's like trying to get up the hill.
Everybody knows that story.
Yeah. Well, okay. So like and then there's like the big bad engine going up there. Okay, the little kid I used to take care of was like, that's the white guy. He's like 3 or 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and my thing was, and yeah, it was, and it was sort of, he's like, oh yeah, the white. It's not like he said that's the white guy. He's like, oh yeah, the white guy's going on or something like that. So no, you do not need to like
Ooh,
play
that's sad.
stupid. You do not need to play stupid little games like that with people. I mean, oh man, okay, this was classic, man. I was at like some event. I took the kid some sort of event, and he saw these guys kissing, and he said something or other came up about guys being with each other, and he said that's what guys do to each other in prison. He's like 5. So yeah, so I was like, no, I was like, Mario, I said, people do things to hurt each other, and that is something that happens, and I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. He knows it happens. And, but I was saying, when people are gay, they spend time together. These are people that love each other and are being good to each other. So, yeah, so you're going to take like some, and kids come up with stuff like that all the time. So, no, I mean, keep stuff real. And that's why I really believe in teaching with art, because art is real. And a story is real. A play is real. I mean, it's real even if it's not real. It's a real, it's this. So yeah, so that's messed up. But all of that, and so okay, so then at Evergreen, so a teacher objected to that. So like, okay, so not only I think it's wrong to try and like make an educational point by having by people not going to school. This is an entire college with like with a couple thousand people there.
Wow.
Not people are in different classes. People are not everybody is in the like humanities. People are doing a lot of different things. I mean, there's people who have, there's people who arrange their work schedules so that they have that day to go to school. There's people that arrange their babysitters.
So they didn't tell them.
No, they told them. They were like saying they were supposed to have it. Like, no, white people don't come to school today.
Okay, so they knew.
Yeah, they were told.
Okay.
But, people have like, so then people are like, okay, people can be like, okay, great. Here's like a day, like say, a lot of people are like working like 6 days a week, and they have that day to go to school. Or they have like, say, if you have your babysitter.
Oh, so it's like it kind of inconvenienced some people.
I would.
Is that what you're trying to say, kind of?
Inconvenient is spending time. Inconvenient is finding like a hard place to having a hard time finding a place to park. I think this is more serious. Well, look, okay, how would you feel? I mean, like, it's like, okay, you get your schedule, you have, it's like, okay, like, it's like, if, okay, you're planning to, like, say if you're going to DJ on Saturday, and, and I understand this sort of thing happens in the work, but, it's like if somebody, you have your day set to do that. It's like somebody saying, like, okay, no, don't go that day, you need to go a different day, or something. I mean, people have their schedules, and, I mean, in the university, people are taking, like, all sorts of different classes and programs. I mean, people are doing different stuff. And so, yeah, you don't have, that just would not be okay. I mean, and it's saying, like, okay, everybody needs to learn this lesson at this time. And, like, okay, like, what about the people in, like, the science programs, or what are the people in the art programs? And, like, yeah, that's a big deal. Like, if you have if you have a regular babysitter, you can't just, with a lot of people, you can't just, like, say you're paying your babysitter to watch your kid when you're at school. You can't just say, like, no, never mind, don't come in, so I'm not going to pay you. I mean, if you want to consist, I'm sure people do that sometimes. But for the most part, you can't do that. So that means somebody is, like, paying for a day of babysitting when they don't, when they don't need it. So, a teacher complained about it, and he got absolutely slammed. And so he got, like, students were, like, coming to his classroom and screaming at him, and students of his tried to stick up for the guy and say, like, hey, he's a good guy, including non-white students. They all got bashed by the students, and a lot of people demonstrating, as always, were, like, white against him. And so
this is my question: do you think there was any pros to what he was doing as a teacher?
Well, yeah, he was saying that's not okay. I mean, he was, well, okay, I disagree with his language. He should have used my language. Okay, the reason I disagree with it is for the reasons I said. Right. I don't think he learned by not being at school. He was talking about how, if they disagreed with his language, I would have agreed with him, because he was doing, like, somewhat of an equivalency thing, like, okay, the values of, this is about the values of not discriminating against people, so, this is I agree with the guy's point, but not the way he phrased it, because he was sort of saying, like, oh, that's not okay to not, because we're not discriminating. He was almost, and he is a good guy. He was saying, like, okay, the values are to not discriminate against a whole bunch of people. And I disagree with that way of putting it, because then you're like, it sounds like, it kind of sounds like white people saying that they're being discriminated against. And I disagree with that. If somebody, like, if I was supposed to, like, if I'd been, say if I was still a student there, I would have said what I said. I'd be like, I want to go to class because I want to go to class because I want to learn. I would not say that I was being discriminated against. I would not. Yeah. I don't view it that way.
Do you think do you think there's any pros to this whole exercise that they were doing?
No, because it turned into a fucking screaming mob, and they and then the president of they basically shut down the school. And when I was going to Evergreen, there were some protests and stuff, and they did actually, like, occupy vice president's office, but it didn't shut down the whole school. I was in a different classes or something. I was doing something else. And so, yeah, so it shut down the entire school, so that's shutting down people's education. And then the college president and see, this is ridiculous to me. He told campus security not to do anything about it. And so, like, it just, wait, okay, security is, you know, he shouldn't be able to tell security not to keep things safe. That should be their professional judgment. So, you know, there were threats, and so they called the teacher was told not to come to class because they couldn't guarantee his safety because there were threats of violence.
Right.
And so basically this is, so yeah, I mean, it turned out, and so the guy, it just turned into chaos. It turned into, like, the school practically shut down. I mean, nobody was able to go to class. And, you know, you're talking about, like, 3,000 students, and this is, and the guy got, like, and so, okay, so none of the only news outlet that would cover it was Fox News. So he went on Fox News because they were fucking covering it.
Right.
Nobody else was covering it.
Right.
And so, you know, of course he got bashed for that. And I was like, shit, fuck them. You know, I mean, again, as people know, I call Fox News and talk to them. I mean, you know,
Right.
I mean, you need to talk to people. And, like, yeah, the fucking liberal people should have come out there too. So the guy wound up, it's a nationwide thing. Like, you remember at Berkeley when students were out, like, I mean, they spent, like, thousands of dollars on security because students were out demonstrating against a right-wing speaker who came to speak. And then there was this huge thing at Yale of, I mean, professors have been hounded out. And it's not... something has happened in academia, which is that it is permissible to scream and yell and shut people down, and so this guy this professor at Evergreen, and his wife taught there too. They wound up leaving their jobs because they were harassed so much, and so now the enrollment for Evergreen this year has, like, dropped by half. And it's and the problem was, see, all this crazy shit has happened, like, at Berkeley and at Yale and a lot of private colleges, but if people decide, those colleges have tons of people wanting to go there. So people may change their minds because of the demonstrations, but there's still tons of other people that want to go there.
Right.
But Evergreen is just a plain old state school. And so they had to lay off people, you know, so they need to evaluate what they're doing. And so it's something crazy, like they had half the number of applicants, and it didn't even say how many people left the school. You know, I mean, and now, I mean, I look at it as a student, I can look at it, you know, as being a student or as being a parent. I mean, if I was sending my kid to college, I don't want to send them someplace where, you know, the entire school could be shut down. And and security needs to be able to do their job. I mean, how are you going to feel safe sending your kids someplace where the college president is telling security not to do anything? And where, you know, it's okay with people to have students screaming and threatening. So I really think all that sucks. And it's, and this is coming from the left. And, you know, shutting down opposing opinions. I mean, there's a controversial speaker named Milo Yiannopoulos, and he was, like, bounced off of, he was kicked off Twitter for harassing Leslie Jones. So, I mean, you know, people that get kicked off Twitter shouldn't get speaking engagements, because that's, I don't know, that's being a perpetrator. But, you know, I mean, there's other conservative speakers. And, you know, there's that, I was listening to one of them, you know, students are, it's now like acceptable for students to come in to where speakers are and like stand in front of the stage and yell and drown them out.
Right.
And so, no, I mean, we should, everybody, okay, well, look right now, okay, so the president's been on TV, and so the issue was the issue is whether some networks are considering whether to run it or not because the president lies. And so the Democrats are demanding equal time to rebut the arguments. But unfortunately, they're just rebutting him to the same old people that, again, more of them need to go on Fox News and talk to the fucking conservatives because, they're on MSNBC and CNN rebutting the president, where everybody on there like hates the president already.
Right.
So that's bad. And, I think that, trade the wall for DACA. They're willing to do it. They're willing to they're willing to strike a deal. Let those DACA young people go on with their lives. Their what they have to contribute to the United States will more than compensate for whatever, with the wall. And building a wall, that's jobs, okay? That's
right.
A bunch of construction jobs. And I know the government spends money on dumb things. That's what it does. And so I've been looking at I've been reading some more about Francis Perkins, who was Franklin Roosevelt's labor secretary, and just looking at different concepts of how you build an economy, and that the economy, it's not just you're not just giving people money. Like, say, okay, you put people to work at a bunch of construction workers are going to get work building the wall. Sorry, people, but so that means people buying homes and moving up the economic ladder and stabilizing society. It means, it's just, okay, we get more of a benefit, like, okay, when we put people to work, those people are spending, and so they're putting more money into the economy, and so that means, like, okay, like better business for like restaurants and shops, and so it's all connected. Right. And it's like, no, I don't like it, but we need to, being a kid, that's called just being a grown up or whatever. Just do that.
Nice.
Yes.
You want to take a break?
Yes. Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll be right back.